Hey again everybody, I'm Panos, a local Philadelphia Falcon main. I'm here to talk to you about practice theory, and how to properly optimize your practice routine.
But we talking about practice, man. What are we talking about? Practice?
So a little bit of background before I get into the video about why the hell I'm even qualified to talk about this. So before I got into Melee at all, I was actually a very serious musician. For most of my young adult life, I practiced my saxophone for anywhere from 2 to 6 hours a day. In that time, I noticed that often when I had something down pat in practice, I would have trouble executing it either in performance or the next time I went to go practice. This made me wonder, what's going on here? Why am I losing all my progress? These questions motivated me to do a lot of research about practice and performance theory. The following video is the accumulation of that knowledge and how I've applied it to Melee. Warning, this is probably going to be pretty long, so I'll add some timestamps in the description for different sections of the video. The first topic that I'm going to talk about that informs all the subsequent topics is the idea of the wheel and spoke framework of Melee improvement. If you imagine a conventional bike wheel, like we have pictured on the screen, you know that you need spokes to support said wheel, so it doesn't collapse under pressure. Each spoke plays a vital role in strengthening and maintaining the form of the wheel. Now imagine Melee improvement as said wheel. This model contains 6 spokes to the wheel, in no particular order. We have tech skill practice, money matches, research, like looking up old Smashboards threads or watching SSBM tutorials videos, tournaments, friendlies, and VOD analysis. To maximize the strength and support behind the wheel and your overall Melee improvement, all of these aspects should be present in your practice. This visual representation isn't 100% the most accurate, however, as a key aspect of the wheel is tailoring it to how you learn as an individual. Someone who learns by doing may allocate more time to the friendlies and money matches aspect of the wheel, whereas someone who learns more by watching might allocate more time to VOD analysis. In addition, this wheel is fluid and fluctuates over time. Don't be afraid to change how much time you give each thing as you progress, as what you need most as a competitor will likely change. How you choose to allocate whatever limited Melee time you have is up to you and how you think you learn best, but I thoroughly believe that every aspect of the wheel should be explored in one's practice to fully maximize improvement. Next, we'll talk about classifying yourself as a player. In Melee, I put players into 2 distinct categories. There are minimizers and there are maximizers. Minimizers look to play the most well-rounded game they can, whereas maximizers play to their strengths as best they can. To put it into context, a minimizer would be a player like Leffen. Leffen does have excellent execution and a very potent punish game, but much of what Leffen thinks about is the intent of the things that he's doing. Leffen not only thinks about how good an option is, but how consistently he can execute it in tournament. In addition, he looks to rid his play of mistakes in every aspect, from neutral to execution to punish. A player like Mango, on the other hand, has a few extremely potent strengths that he plays to. Things like mix-ups, shield pressure, and recovery are Mango's forte. However, Mango actively chooses to ignore other aspects of his play, like his patience and execution. Both of these players are the best of the best. They just take varying approaches to it. Figuring out if you are more of a minimizer or a maximizer is important because it directly influences what kinds of things you'll practice. A minimizer might watch more VODs to observe bad habits, whereas a maximizer may grind tech skill daily to have flawless execution. Classifying yourself is an important step in determining what will best help you improve. It's worth noting that players don't always distinctly belong in either category. In that sense, it helps to imagine these categories more on a spectrum than 2 distinct buckets. Alright, let's get to what we all came here for. How to practice. So we're all on the same page moving forward. It's important we first establish the goal of practice. The goal of practice should be to maximize retention as it applies to performance. In our case, we want to be able to utilize the different skills that we're practicing in different situations in tournament. Now that we've settled that, let's move on. First, let's identify methods of practice. The first, which I'm sure everyone is familiar with, is block practice. In this method of practice, you allot a certain amount of perfect executions or time before you move on. For example, If you pivot 5 times in a row, or if you practice pivoting for 5 minutes, you can move on to the next thing. Next, we have random practice. Random practice can be done on 2 dimensions: how we execute the action, for example, ledge dashing at random lengths, and how much time we practice each action. For example, a 15-minute practice routine could look like this. Block practice is the most popular method of practice by far, but is it the best? I have some supporting materials in the description if you want to look more into it, but long story short, it isn't. Block practice makes you improve rather quickly at an activity in practice, but you're only targeting one step of the action you're doing, the execution. You see, when you perform an action, you go through 3 steps. First, you read the situation, then you plan your action, and finally, you execute. Our bodies get quite good at adapting to the repetitive motion of block practice, so we see improvements in our execution rather quickly. But we don't ever address the reading and planning components. This is why, even when you feel like you've mastered something in practice, you can't execute it in different situations in tournament. That's where random practice comes in. In fact, studies showed that those who do random practice actually retain information better than those who do block practice when it comes to application and performance. So, to put it simply, block practice makes you better at a task in the short term, random practice makes you better at a task in the long term. Or, to relate it to our goal, it maximizes retention. It may be more frustrating to do random practice given you'll improve at a slower rate, but know that you're doing yourself a big favor in the long term. It's important to note that most general estimates of the human attention span are about 20 minutes. So if you can, try to practice Melee for short periods of time with breaks to do homework, watch Netflix, fold laundry, or whatever other mundane tasks you might do throughout your day. This will help to maximize the amount of focused attention that you apply to Melee, and therefore, what you retain from practice. For those of you looking for what to practice, here's what my practice routine looks like. I've presented it in block format for simplicity's sake, but make sure to randomize the amount of time and the variations of the actions you're performing. As you improve at the game, you will begin to notice certain weak aspects of your own play. Feel free to craft your own routine based on what you notice, and change how much you practice each thing over time. Lastly, I'll leave you with some closing thoughts. I hear a lot of newer players that are intimidated by what feels like an insurmountable amount of practice needed to catch up to top players. To those players, I'd say it's not how much you practice, but how efficiently you practice. If you only have 20 minutes a day to practice Melee, make sure you milk the maximum amount of focused practice you can out of that time. If you keep at it every day, you'll close the gap faster than you think between you and players who aren't practicing as efficiently. Whew. Alright, we talked about a lot today, but thanks so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the video. Please comment asking any questions, subscribe if you'd like the video. I really appreciate everyone's support for my content thus far, and look out for another release next Wednesday. Thank you very much, take care, bye-bye.